All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really profound framework from Carl Jung that is going to completely flip the script on what it means to feel behind in life. Honestly, if you've spent years watching other people race ahead while you felt totally stuck, this is going to fundamentally change how you view your entire timeline. So think about your own journey for just a second. Have you always felt a little late to the party? If you grew up feeling completely out of sync with society's traditional milestones, maybe you were considered too quiet, a little too intense, or just slow to launch into the real world, while everyone else seemed to have it all figured out on day one, well, you might actually possess what Jung considered the rarest of personality types. It's a personality built not for early adaptation, but for late, powerful emergence. You see, our society practically demands speed, right? It actively rewards early adaptation, making a lot of noise, and essentially just imitating whoever happens to be successful at the moment. But your psychological reality operates on an entirely different system. Your inner world is simply too vivid, too symbolic, and way too complex to just blindly copy the external world around you. You require real depth, intense inner alignment, and a long period of incubation. Carl Jung actually had a really powerful warning about this. He said, "What adapts too easily often lacks a true self." And wow, that perfectly explains why you might struggle early on. Your psyche is actively resisting false alignment. It somehow knows that adopting a premature identity, just to fit in or please your parents, can actually fracture who you are meant to be. So unconsciously, your mind just hits the brakes. Because of that, your timeline doesn't look like the street, conventional line of early achievers who pick a major at 18 and literally never look back. Yours actually spirals inward. You start out feeling totally misaligned in childhood, then you move into this deep incubation phase in your 20s, slowly find inner stabilization in your 30s, and then, finally, expand into a unified authority in your 40s and beyond. It's the necessary sequence. Let's zero in on that second stage for a minute, the incubation phase. This usually hits in your 20s and early 30s. While all your peers are rapidly checking off those social boxes, getting the promotions, buying the house, posting the perfect engagement photos, you're experiencing the really painful isolation of incubation. You might look completely lost at family dinners and people ask what your 5-year plan is, but internally, you are quietly wrestling with the hardest questions. Who am I really? What is actually authentic to me? Which brings up a fascinating question. Why do early bloomers so often collapse? Well, the crucial realization here is that those who succeed too early often build their entire lives on unexamined egos. They just absorbed what society told them to be. And that frequently leads to massive midlife crises or profound sense of emptiness later on. You, on the other hand, are paying that heavy psychological price right now, early on, to completely avoid that total collapse down the road. But look, paying that price is incredibly difficult. As Jung noted, greater consciousness equals greater suffering. Because you are so painfully aware of the hypocrisy, the manipulation, and the total emptiness of typical social games, like the forced smiles at networking events or the superficial posturing, your soul just refuses to cooperate with external success if it threatens your inner integrity. You literally can't just play along. This hyper-awareness brings a profound loneliness that you simply have to walk through. Enduring this deep isolation without numbing yourself and without giving in to that overwhelming urge to just conform and be normal triggers a vital dissolution of the ego. This is the pivotal moment. It's where you finally stop defining yourself by society's false metrics and start listening entirely to your own inner voice. And because you stall early on, you are forced into an intimate, often exhausting confrontation with your own darkness. Jung called this the shadow. These are the uncomfortable traits most people spend their entire lives desperately repressing. Doubt, envy, deep anger, a haunting sense of inferiority. But you actually have the time and the space in this isolation to sit with them, analyze them, and ultimately integrate them into who you are. Now, society generally has no category for late bloomers, so it just hurls insults. It calls you lazy, unmotivated, or constantly reminds you of your wasted potential. But the psychological reality, you are fiercely resisting premature crystallization. This delay isn't a failure at all. It's a deliberate, highly protective mechanism deployed by your own mind to keep you from walking down the wrong path. Then, as you navigate into your late 30s and 40s, you enter this incredibly powerful phase called individuation. And it's absolutely crucial to understand that this isn't about self-improvement. It is self-recovery. It's the slow, deliberate removal of everything false. You finally shed those borrowed identities, the heavy expectations of your parents, and you start to feel this strange, new, profound inner stabilization. And because you spent all those years consolidating your internal world, instead of just chasing external validation, something pretty incredible happens. Your mere presence begins to carry a heavy, unshakable authority. People instinctively feel it when you walk into a room. You aren't trying to dominate or impress anyone. Your words just carry weight because everything you say has been brutally tested internally for years. Naturally, this inner depth dictates exactly where you're going to excel. You begin to thrive in complex fields, things like long-term strategy, leadership, deep psychology, philosophy, art, and systems building. Why? Well, because while everyone else was busy memorizing the rulebook just to win today's game, you were quietly studying the entire chessboard. You understand how things actually work, way beneath the surface. And all of this builds to what is, honestly, the ultimate freedom. You become something quite dangerous to rigid systems. You become psychologically unbribable. Because your identity is no longer tied to external approval, you become practically immune to both intoxicating praise and destabilizing criticism. You simply cannot be controlled by traditional rewards or fears anymore. You finally, truly belong to yourself. But there is a catch. And Jung warned about this very clearly. Refusing one's rightful place is also a betrayal of the self. You see, eventually, you have to step out of the shadows. You have to bear the weight of who you've become. You might hesitate because you remember all those early rejections, but you have to trust that your integrated shadow ensures you won't abuse this newly found power. You're ready for it now. This is exactly why 40 and beyond is often the magic window. While early adapters are out there frantically clinging to relevance or burning out completely, the rare personality frequently hits this massive, effortless momentum. Why? Because their psyche is finally unified. All the pieces have clicked into place. To fully step into this power, though, you have to pass one final test of maturity. You have to abandon any lingering resentment for your so-called lost years. You literally must reinterpret those past delays not as failures, but as vital insulation in preparation. And finally, you have to forge an internally consistent story. You have to stop dragging your chaotic past behind you like a weight and start using it as your foundation. Overcoming that final hurdle leads us to Jung's ultimate reward, inner coherence. This isn't just about being happy or making a bunch of money. It's the profound, unshakable feeling that your life entirely belongs to you. In this state, a major loss or sharp criticism might sting, sure, but they can never destroy you, because your foundation is entirely your own, built block by block in the dark. So I want to leave you with this question to really ponder today. Are you truly behind or simply early for a completely different kind of life? If you recognize your own struggles in this explainer, I challenge you to reframe your lived experience right now. View it not as a delay or a deficit, but as the necessary, quiet, and beautiful path to true self-mastery. Definitely think about that the next time you feel behind. Thanks for joining this explainer. We'll see you in the next one.